So today we're going to do a misandry double dip. my voice broke there, which is kind of funny considering we're talking about the vilification of manly stuff, and I would say manly stuff. Um, hmm. So I just finished seeing the movie Men, and I was wary of this film from the preview, but I was also kind of curious about it. It looked visually very interesting, conceptually very interesting, but I was also aware that there was a clear misandrist vibe to this movie. But I wanted to check it out. Ultimately, my curiosity won out over my dislike of the misandry undertone of the that I gleaned from the preview. So the movie is written and directed by a man. Take that for what it's worth. I guess I don't know. Men can be as avid misandrist as women can. Male feminists are what they are. Now, I don't know. I don't want to assign any particular label to the maker of this movie, because I want to keep it open, keep open the possibility that this movie is sort of playing with these concepts rather than it being something that the writer director devoutly believes in and of himself. What we end up seeing in this movie, there my voice breaks again. What we end up seeing in this movie is really an embodiment of thoroughgoing misandry to a degree that almost verges on self-parody. And it's also very, very surreal. It's a very surreal presentation, and it's not ever really clear what's real and what isn't, who's real and who isn't, what's really going on in real life, and to what degree this is a fantasy. But I think it's definitely supposed to function as a kind of parable, and as a parable, it is misandric to its very core. But almost, like I said, almost to the point where it's just like, this has got to be a joke. There's got to be this is pushing it like as far as you can possibly push it. So the premise, let me just, and there will be spoilers here. I don't think anybody who's watching this video wants to see it, but if you do want to see it and you don't and you want to avoid spoilers, then stop watching now, I guess. So the plot, as it were, concerns a young woman who has recently she got out of a toxic marriage. Of course, toxic. Got to use the word toxic somewhere in here. And her husband was this narcissistic kind of monster, who eventually became abusive, physically abusive. He hit her in the face, but before that, he was being abusive in the sense that he was, she was saying, we need to divorce, and he was saying, if you divorce me, I'm going to kill myself and and you'll suffer from the memory of what you did to me. So his and eventually he does just that, or it's kind of alleged it's a little bit ambiguous, but basically, he does he falls from a height, and it's more or less sort of implied that he did it intentionally to spite her, to make her feel terrible for hurting him. So right away, we have the male character. The only male character who is definitely real in this story, I think, is the husband. The rest of the male characters, are all just are kind of surreal. They crop up, and they represent different kind of archetypes of of masculinity. But they're all played by the same actor, and there's a heavy degree of, like I said, surreality in the rest of the plot that makes us wonder whether any of this is actually happening or not. And anyway, but the husband killing himself, we're removed from seeing any kind of empathy, having any kind of empathy for him, for his side of the situation, whatever was going on in their marriage, whatever problems there were, and whether or not she was correct to divorce him. Where the movie makes sure that we only see the man, in the husband, in a negative light, and that even his suicide, we can't see that as motivated by sadness or motivated by despair at having lost the love of his life, or any of the kind of anything that would make him pitiable. Instead, it just becomes this monstrous act of narcissism and of spite, of this attempt to wound her spirit by doing this violence to himself. One interesting thing. Now, this is a very this could be said to be, unless it's like I said, it verges on parody. But as far as the feminist stuff goes, this is a very, or the misandry goes, the feminist misandry. This is about as, like I said, as far as you can get with that stuff. But it does strike one rather discordant note as far as being an SJW friendly movie, because what race is her husband? Her husband is a black man. So we see, and the woman is a white woman. So we see this white woman, get punched in the face by this black man, and then we see the black man killing himself for the woman. And maybe the race of the husband is supposed to be incidental, but I don't think so. The fact that they chose a black actor to play the husband, and he's the only non-white actor in the movie, that's kind of interesting. That makes, again, kind of makes me wonder. That's a little bit jarring. That's something that somebody who, the typical SJW who would go to this movie and who would be nodding approvingly at most of it, that's something that would make them feel a little uncomfortable. This vilification of black violence, saying black men are doing violence to white women. So that's kind of an interesting little element in the midst of all of this. But anyway, so the main character, the heroine, the newly widowed woman, goes to a country house off in the beautiful English countryside, and she just has gone there for a couple of weeks just to sort of get her wits together after everything that's happened to her. And while she's there, she meets up with a cast of men, all played by the same actor. I can't think of his name right now, but she meets up with the guy who's the landlord, who's like this creepy guy, who's says inappropriate things and makes her uncomfortable. And then she meets up with this. Then there's some naked freak who's chasing her down. Tries to break into her house while naked, and then she meets this mean, supposed to be a teenage boy, but the CGI it's clearly not a teenage boy. It's clearly the actor, with a teenage sort of body, and he calls her a bitch, and then she meets with this sleazy vicar, who seems to be nice at first, who seems to be sympathetic at first, but then he puts his hand on her knee in a very inappropriate way, and basically tells her that she should feel guilty because she should have forgiven her husband for striking her, and that in not doing that she drove him to suicide. And let's see, there's a policeman, a police guy, who they take the naked guy away, but then they let him go because they don't really have anything to hold him for. They say, and she indignantly says, "Well, he was stalking me. He tried to break into the house and do harm to me," and the policeman just sort of laughs it off. So you get the idea. Every single male character that she meets, besides her husband, is this played by the same actor, but it's all a different archetype of masculinity, and every single one of them is unsympathetic to the max, right? Like they're all in a way an embodiment of the husband's character, and everything about them, when they are sad, when they are in pain, when they are suffering, it's a narcissistic sadness. It's them wallowing in self-pity, and trying to make her feel guilty for what she's done to them. So they're all just manipulative, gaslighting, creeps. And it gets really weird. And visually speaking, there are some compelling scenes in the movie. The final scenario of what happens is so weird and gross and so surreal. It's been compared to something you'd see in a Cronenberg movie, and I think that's an apt comparison. I'm not even going to try to describe it here, but it basically boils down to these characters all showing up one more time, trying to make this young woman feel bad, to trying menacing her, gaslighting her, telling her that she's to blame for hurting them, when in fact they're the ones who are the predators. They're the ones who are going after her, and making her life a living hell. And so what we're left with at the end of it all is just this sense that anyone and anything that's male is totally drained of sympathy, and that even when somebody who is a man is in pain, there's nothing to sympathize with. It's only that person, being manipulative, trying to spitefully, narcissistically hurt the woman. And just like with the kayak commercial that I was talking about earlier today, it's a good way of looking at this. A good way of detecting that misandry is real, and then that double standards are real. In that if we had the same movie turned around, and it was called Women, and it featured a man in the place of the heroine of the movie, getting menaced by a bunch of women, all of whom are awful people, who we are drained of any empathy for them. They're all just creepy, mean, manipulative, spiteful women, and they're all after this poor guy, who was blameless, who was in this abusive relationship and wanted to get out of it, and they're all trying to make him feel. They're all sort of trying to drive him to feel guilty for something that he shouldn't feel guilty over, because he was not really to blame in the marriage. It was the woman he was married to, right? If you turn it around and had that kind of movie, there would be protests. It would be roundly condemned everywhere. But they make this movie, and it's just out. It's not even. I thought it would be more of an art house sort of thing, but they give it at the regular. It's a pretty widespread release. I mean, I doubt it's going to make a whole lot of dough, but it's certainly not. There's no protests. There's no organized movement to decry the message of the movie or anything like that. And again, I'm open to the possibility that maybe the director has something, is up to something here, and that because after you see this kind of movie, I don't know about anybody else, but to me, even if I were a misandric feminist, I would sort of think, that's going a little far, isn't it? I mean, this, like they say in the song from Oklahoma, everything's up to date in Kansas City. They've gone about as far as they can go. You can't go much farther misandry-wise than this movie Men. So I will link to the trailer for this movie. You can get a little taste of it, of what it's all about. But it's what you see in the trailer. There's nothing. There's no surprises. That's what it is. That's the kind of movie that it is. But a couple things just make me wonder whether, because first of all, the politically incorrect choice to make the villainous husband a black guy, and then just the fact that it's so extreme kind of makes me wonder if this might be like a critique of misandry. Maybe it's open to that possibility, that interpretive possibility. I don't know. I'm not sure what to say about that, but interested to hear what anybody else thinks. If anybody else out there has seen, if you've just stumbled on this review and you've seen it and you want to offer your 2 cents, I'd be interested to hear. Thanks for watching. My name is Andy Nowicki. You can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com. My latest book, The Insurrectionist, can be purchased from terrorhousepress.com.